I'm back. Today I'm going to be teaching you about species that are going extinct in the Philippines. It's a really important topic because in 2024 there was somewhere around 10,000 species that went extinct. That's so mad. It ain't a good mad, it's a bad mad. So I'm going to be telling you some critically endangered species and some endangered species that are endemic to the Philippines. I hate to be that person, but I can only please ask you to like and subscribe and possibly share this video. I kind of want to push it out there, make more people aware. So if you can do that, please do. That's all I ask. Comment as well, please. Please, I'm begging. Comment, please. 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 I'm going to kick this off with the first animal, which is the Philippine eagle. So the Philippine eagle is the national bird of the Philippines, and it's also one of the biggest eagles in the world, lengthwise. But it is also the most endangered. These birds grow up to around 3 feet in length and have a wingspan of anywhere from 6 to 7 feet, so pretty big. Conservation on these birds can be extremely difficult because the females only lay eggs every 2 years, so it's hard. So the Philippine eagle's diet consists of reptiles, birds, small mammals, and surprisingly sometimes even monkeys. So the population decline has actually been rooted from hunting. So we as humans used to hunt these eagles as we've seen them as competition. But now the biggest threat is actually from deforestation and habitat loss. The Philippine eagle's natural habitat is actually forests way up high in mountains in the Philippines. There's less forest for them to live in, and so there's less numbers. They are listed as a critically endangered species, and that is because there is believed to be anywhere from 400 to 500 left. There is a place in the Philippines called the Philippine Eagle Centre, and to my knowledge it is the only rehabilitation and breeding programme that is actually in place to save these eagles. And it's a real shame because they are gorgeous animals. You don't want anything to go extinct, really, do you? Sometimes you wish humans went extinct. Next up, we have the Tamaraw, which is also known as the dwarf buffalo, and that is obviously because of its size. This buffalo is considered one of the rarest buffaloes in the world due to location and numbers. The numbers have been mainly and hugely affected by human population growth, and that is basically us turning areas into land that we use for agriculture and infrastructure, area for livestock, and it's kind of just wiped them out. Long story short, we demanded their land and they really had anywhere else to go, and so numbers have just continued to decrease. Tamaraws are endemic to the Philippines, and local residents volunteer in an NGO, which is a non-government organisation, and this group is called the Bontai Tamaraw Rangers. The goal is to help preserve and increase this species numbers. Buffaloes are important to ecosystems as they help with vegetation and soil health. So not only do they help with ecosystems by keeping them healthy, but in reality they also help us creating areas good for planting trees and crops. As majority of the time, humans have took advantage of this and now them listed as critically endangered on the IUCN. To help preserve this species, there are things that we actually can do, and that is contribute to tree planting projects whenever you can. And I will tell you how to do that without even paying at the end. And also spreading awareness. I was aware of most of these species before I even did this research, so even just sharing this video, it can help, please. Tree planting projects, spreading awareness, it ain't that hard, and trust me, as I said before, stay tuned and I will tell you how you can help with tree planting projects for free. Let's go to the next animal, which is the chevrotain, aka the mouse deer. These little creatures look like them crossed between deer and a mouse. Them found in foresty areas in South and Southeast Asia, also parts of Africa, and they're also one of the smallest ruminants. And if you don't know what a ruminant is, it's an even-toed hoofed animal, so animals such as sheep, cows, antelope, deer, giraffes. The diets mainly consist of plant materials. However, there have been occasions where they've snacked on insects and sometimes even dead fish. As I just said, the diets are mainly plant materials, however they do have 2 large fang-like teeth at the front, and it's believed that these are larger in males because of them used for fighting each other, territorial reasons. And so even though they have these large teeth, they can't really fend off prey. The size just makes them easy prey. But they're aware of them such easy prey, so they've developed ways to protect themselves. One of the most straightforward and simplest ones is they're very skittish, they're very scared animals. There ain't that many sightings of them because they're very scared animals, and they're actually that scared animals and then that secretive and that cautious. One species in particular, this bloke right here, went undetected for almost 30 years.
Rediscovery of a tiny deer that hasn't been spotted alive for 3 decades.
But the main defence mechanism in these animals is they can actually stomp their feet 4 to 7 times a second and make a drum roll noise. And it kind of fends off predators and lets other chevrotains in the area know that there's predators nearby, there's danger nearby. So yeah, this is a very common tactic spread between all chevrotains to defend themselves. However, there's one out of the 10 species that has a different approach to defending themselves. The water chevrotain. This animal, when it's threatened by a predator, jumps into the nearest river and runs along the riverbed. And surprisingly, these animals can actually hold their breath from 4 to 5 minutes. They're mostly solitary animals, and so they only really come into contact when they're mating or when they've crossed paths and they're defending territory. We don't know much about the behaviours because they're so low-key, and the chevrotain is actually the smallest hoofed mammal in the world. These animals are listed as endangered, so not critically endangered just yet. However, we don't want it to get to that. Helping these animals is spreading awareness and forest donations, because habitat loss is killing off a lot of animals. We lose so many animal species to habitat destruction. These are endangered, and they are critically endangered just yet, and we don't want it to get to that point. We don't want them to get to critically endangered and then think, oh my days, we need to help now. So moving on to one of the most adorable animals you will ever meet, and trust me, I mean it. It's the Philippine pangolin. Again, these animals are endemic, which means native to the Philippines. They can grow up to 130 centimetres. These animals live in lowland forested areas, and they hunt in the trees and on the ground for ants and termites. These animals do look for prey at night because they're nocturnal. The main threat to these is actually lack of awareness and lack of understanding of how they actually do benefit our ecosystems. So the main threat to these gorgeous animals is actually lack of understanding. It is well known as what you'd think, that pangolins are actually very good at maintaining healthy grassland and forests, and so we don't realise their ecological importance. It's a lack of understanding that it doesn't really affect them. Obviously, this causes habitat loss because people don't take no notice, people don't really care, and they don't realise how pangolins actually do help. Another big threat the pangolins face is hunting. Hunting for the scales and for meat. And it also does help when pangolins are the only mammal that have scales for protection and armour. There's videos of larger animals trying to break through these armour plates, and they just can't do it because they're that resilient, they're that strong. And it's a shame that people want to take that away. Another threat that poses to these animals is international trade. They are protected under the CITES law, which it basically prohibits endangered species from being traded internationally for commercial use. It protects species from illegal trafficking. Although they're lawfully protected, it's still an issue. This species is critically endangered. So again, what can we do to help? Well, as many of the others, tree planting projects, a big, huge one, because again, one of the main threats is habitat loss. So the last species I'm going to be teaching you about today is the Philippine cockatoo. Probably one of the most famous species of cockatoo. There are more than 20 species of cockatoo in the world, and at least half of these are somewhat endangered. It's commonly known that they're very social animals and they can be found in flocks of large numbers. A very adorable fact about these is that these birds actually do mate for life. In my next life, make me a cockatoo, please. Both males and females incubate the eggs when they're laid, and typically the female would normally sit on the eggs when she's laid them, but they take it in turns. In the wild, cockatoos can live up to 50-60 years. However, in captivity, it's normally like 20 to 25 years due to poor husbandry and lack of socialisation. These birds are very adaptable, so they can be found in many different habitats. These habitats will range from places like forests to grassland, even cities, but no species sticks to a certain habitat. The diets would consist of things like plant materials, seeds, nuts, fruits, insects, vegetables, but species do have the preferences. Just like the Philippine eagle, these birds are very widely recognised and known in the Philippines. But this particular species is found in mangroves, forested areas, and even coastal areas in the Philippines. One of the main problems and main threats is habitat loss. Another reason is actually lack of understanding and lack of knowledge yet again. These birds actually do very largely contribute to forests and the regrowth and regeneration of them, because they act as natural seed dispersers. So they drop seeds all around the forest, everywhere they fly, and it just overall it helps with the regeneration of ecosystems. So you've reached the end of the video, well done. You've listened to me talk for however long this video's. So you ain't lost me just yet. You've got a few more minutes. There's things that you can do. You can basically plant trees for free. And you can do these through apps such as Ecosia and Tree App. There are more, however, these are the two that I use. Basically, Tree App is an app that I found a few days ago. You watch the advert for so long, and the revenue generated from that goes to helping plant trees and funding trees. So it keeps you updated and stuff like that. how much you've actually contributed, your green impact. You've got a green streak. In honour of this video, I've planted 3 trees in the Philippines. I planted 5 trees the other day and it was so worth it. I was buzzing. I felt so happy. And then the other one is Acacia. It is a search browser and it's a lot more green than Safari and Google and ChatGPT. Every day you search, you get a seed, a virtual seed. And once you collect so many of them seeds, you plant a tree. But they use local businesses and local people and stuff like that. So it all goes to a good cause. It really, really does. Honestly, please spread the video, spread the awareness. Matt, I've been waffling for 7 minutes about planting trees for free. You can do it for